Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. So, who wants to see Boris Johnson be made to look like the bumbling idiot he should always have been taken for? Because in this video, I'd like to discuss how an Australian journalist showed how relatively easy it is to expose Boris Johnson's nonsense by just asking very clear follow-up questions to his idiotic statements. Just think how much damage could have been spared this country if Johnson had faced this level of scrutiny to his statements in this country by our own media. But first, for daily political commentary, please click the subscribe button so you don't miss out. So Boris Johnson is a man of absolutely no substance. This is not just his actions, even his thoughts. He builds no foundations to anything he does or thinks, and I suspect never has. In politics, it was all about grand announcements to him, the big projects. Nothing ever came of it. And before he was ever allowed the opportunity to put any of his thoughts or brain farts into practice, he should have had them rigorously tested. He never was. But he's just carried out an interview with an Australian broadcaster, which, looking at a couple of illuminating clips in particular, he was made to look like a fraud, a fool, take your pick. And all the interviewer really did was just ask him to clarify his statements. It was as simple as that. He's obviously so unused to anyone saying to him, go on then, prove it, that he completely fell to pieces. Do a little bit of a blow-by-blow account of some of the more interesting bits. So Johnson says of the US presidential election, whoever loses must accept defeat. The interviewer, Tara Brown, said, well, that didn't happen last time. Now, Boris Johnson does not go full Trump like, Farage does, for example. So he acknowledged that Trump didn't concede defeat. Boris Johnson certainly is not one of the people saying that the election was stolen. But he said, well, this was a mistake. He said this was a big mistake. But then, in order to try and prove some point, he said, but what did happen was we had this peaceful transfer of power, which of course is a nonsense. There was a very violent transfer of power, which resulted in actual deaths. And this was pointed out to him. And again, he acknowledged it. And the thing is, every time he said something ludicrous, he had it pointed out. And then it's not like he even tried to argue. He accepted it and then moved on to the next untrue statement. But if you were watching this interview, you couldn't help but see Johnson as at best a fool and at worst a liar, who wasn't even particularly committed to the lie because he hadn't gone prepared to back up his statements if they were going to face any sort of scrutiny. Like, he didn't bother to try to defend the statements he'd just made. He made the statement, had it called out, accepted that what he said wasn't actually true after all, rinse and repeat. Then, sensing that he was being made to look like a bit of a chump, he sprang into life saying, you can argue about this, that and the other. We both know our stuff on politics, Tara, my dear. He didn't actually say that. But I've given various reasons why I think we could be positive about a Trump presidency. And, and he was reminded about the violence again. And then he said, I don't think that's going to happen this time. And again, it was just really simple. He was asked, well, why not? And you could see his brain melting down in real time. He's like thinking, well, what's just happened? Hang on, what's going on here? I don't usually get asked to defend my opinions. I usually just get to say them and move on. Think, man, think. What can I say to make me look like a strategic genius? Came up blank. All he could say was, well, I just don't think it will happen. That was it. No reason, no basis for his opinion. How can conservatives think that this man is an election winning machine? I know he's won elections. It wasn't him that won them. He just played the part. Someone else won the elections for him. How can they think that when he's incapable of strategic thought? He cannot even defend an opinion. He's going on an interview to express these opinions. And it has simply never occurred to him that someone might ask, on what are you basing that opinion, Mr. Johnson? Because I think it will happen. Oh, that's some deep thought going on there. No reason, no basis for the opinion, whether sensible or not. Nothing, just raw belief. which is, of course, very Boris Johnson. Remember how he said that Brexit, Brexit needed belief to work. It was going to be belief powered. If it ran into problems, if a business suffered because of Brexit, it was their fault for not taking the Brexit opportunities. If Brexit itself ran into problems, it wasn't because he hadn't thought it through. No. It was because other people didn't believe enough. It's actually our fault, the Remainers' fault. We didn't believe in it. No, we didn't believe in it. But most people don't actually think that's the case. They don't think that the success or failure of something is simple belief. Most people didn't just have Daddy throw money at mistakes to make them go away. If we made mistakes, we suffered consequences. Sometimes we suffer consequences if other people make mistakes and we're not able to stop the collateral damage hitting us, right? Most of us have learned that we need to think things through if we want to succeed, or even just avoid catastrophic failure, because wishing upon a star only works in fairy tales. Doesn't even always work then. But the moment where he was beaten all ends up was over AUKUS. Something that the post-Brexit Tories only worked on as a way of screwing over the French, right? But although it was hailed in the Tory media, the details were way less impressive. Brown said that Paul Keating, former Prime Minister of Australia, had said that AUKUS was the worst deal in history. Now, okay, that's probably over-egging it a bit. I'm pretty sure Johnson's Brexit was a worse deal. But the point is nonetheless made that it's really nothing to be proud of. Brown goes further, quoting Keating as saying, "The UK is looking around for suckers to create global Britain after the fool Johnson destroyed their place in Europe." Well, Johnson was at a complete loss. He stuttered and stammered, and all he could think to say was, "I think he's wrong." Right. That's it, is it? You think he's wrong. Great debate there. I mean, that's a classic, that one, isn't it? Great. What happened to that private education of his? Where, did he do debates? He's been into politics, a journalist. He must be used to debates. You stand up. I mean, if all people had to do was to stand up to rebut something, I think you're wrong. I mean, debating would be easy, wouldn't it? But after watching Johnson make statement after painful statement, which was immediately proven to be untruthful, and Johnson being completely unable to do anything but agree that it was untruthful, I'm going to say I'm pretty sure anyone watching that interview will conclude that calling Johnson a fool was, if anything, an act of charity, because I would call him a liar and a scoundrel. But it was quite depressing, in a sense, to watch Johnson being made to look completely ridiculous, utterly out of his depth, on not even particularly complicated issues. Depressing because I just thought to myself, this is who he is. If only everyone who had interviewed Boris Johnson over the past 2 decades had done so in the way that Tara Brown did, most people wouldn't really even know who Boris Johnson was, because he would never have climbed the political ladder. They would just have seen him as that clown on Have I Got News For You. That would have been his legacy. A clown on a light entertainment show. Instead, he was able to become accustomed to coming out with the most ridiculous bollocks and never seriously getting picked up on it. And the reason is simple enough. If you challenged him, you wouldn't get to interview him again. Brown was able to really press him because she wouldn't ever expect to interview him again. Her programme wouldn't expect to interview him again. She's not going to lose her job because Johnson would boycott the channel in the future. It's a one-off interview. And those are incredibly dangerous to a charlatan like Johnson. Still, if he does try to come back to frontline politics, he's given us now a nice little bit of ammunition, a few interesting clips to show just how useless he is, and by his own admission, how he puts absolutely no thought into anything he says. He just believes things. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can join for memberships. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you later.